Hey, what's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. Much appreciated. If you guys could, go subscribe over to the 56WQAM YouTube page and watch the Tobin and Leroy show weekdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., although I will be out on Friday. I'm going to take a little extra vacay on the weekend, catching up on some days off after working extra days during this whole title run. So, but we'll still be uploading a lot of stuff up here as well. So, check that on out, man. We're having a lot of fun every single day. I got to be honest with you. Like, even the first couple shows afterwards, I've been like, this has been fun. And then one of the reasons is I love NBA off-season time of year. I really do. Like, I love the title runs more than anything. I love the games. But I'm not going to lie. I am a guy who loves the transaction. I love the rumor mill. I love the fodder. I love the fact that everything just becomes a rumor. You know, not just the fact of sources, but just ideas people throw against the wall. And so today in Heatland, the funny one that was thrown against the wall was from Kendrick Perkins, who brought up today on First Take that he thinks that Ja Morant needs a change of scenery and that the place that he should go is the Miami Heat. And I was like, all right, I can kind of see the logic of it. I can see like the baseline logic of it of, all right, you think Ja Morant is in a situation where he's got a lot of enablers around him, that he's got a lot of yes men, a lot of people not looking out for his best interest. Miami Heat, organizational, would kind of nip that stuff in the bud. And, he could just focus on winning. I think that's kind of like the direction. I know he said things like, oh, Pat Riley, there's nothing that happens in Miami without Pat Riley knowing. There's nothing that happens in it without Udonis Haslem knowing and things like that. Which to a degree, I think every team has that kind of infrastructure of their teams having team security and knowing what goes on or tries to know on what's going on in their team's lives. So I have a couple thoughts on this with this whole Ja Morant Miami Heat thing. I have a basketball trade part of it that I want to discuss, and then I have just a personal Ja thing. Personally, I think Ja Morant is just an excellent basketball player. I mean, he's a winner, right? Like, this has been a team that, they got wholly embarrassed this year. They got humbled, but they're a young team. They have done a lot of winning early on up in their whole little team building, between him and Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. You can't really there's a lot of teams in this league that you could scoff at and say, the Memphis Grizzlies look like they're going places. I know that they probably got a little bit full of themselves this year, and Triple J even talked about some of the humbling that they had gone through. And sometimes you need that, Everybody goes through that. I think it's one of those things where it is an important thing with a lot of cores that they do suffer that humbling. I think for the Miami Heat, with this core in particular, it didn't really happen in the first year because they went to the finals with the year with the pandemic, but the next year was certainly humbling. And then the last couple of years they made it to the finals and the Eastern Conference Finals respectively. But I don't see Ja Morant as a guy, if it's just strictly getting out of Memphis. I feel like a lot of the people that Ja Morant and are around I feel like those people are probably going to come with him to Miami. I don't necessarily know if that's going to change things or if that's going to change him. Maybe it's just a wake-up call to, hey, the team that you were the king of is actually getting rid of you. I couldn't see that happening. And I feel like whatever punishment does come for Ja Morant, I'm kind of on the side of what Ja Morant did was really stupid. In the idea that we all have bosses, we all have people that look over. Like if my boss tells me not to do something, or if I really royally screw up, and my boss tells me, hey, don't do that, slap on the wrist, which is basically what happened to Ja Morant. It was take a couple weeks off, right? Do a cream puff interview. Let's move on. Everybody kind of forgot about it by the end, did we not? And in fact, so much so that the only guy that everybody really hated in Memphis land was Dylan Brooks. Nobody even gave a rat's ass about what Ja Morant had been through. The Grizzlies had kind of put all that stuff in the rearview mirror, So I look at this and I'm like, I know that Ja Morant's going to get a hefty suspension. It sounds, who knows, half a year. I think that's going to be a little bit too strong, but in a way, I kind of, I think the reason everybody's going to go like, hey, he didn't break a law. I understand that argument. There is also part of me that's like, hey, his boss told him, hey, you should cut some of this stuff out. And he immediately went back to it and got caught doing the same thing. That's just dumb. That's stupid. And I don't really know what Heat culture or being down in Miami could do for that if you have the same friends around your life. I don't really genuinely know how the Miami Heat can fix that. It's not like the Miami Heat have never had any players have off the court trouble. It's happened before. So I don't really know what Miami could do for it. The other part of that is like, okay, you look at a Miami Heat team as like a guy that maybe is an outcast, needs some guidance as far as like winning or something. I don't really feel like Ja Morant has that. I feel like he's starting to lead a pretty successful organization. So I don't know. All of those factors, I'm usually on board. I'm usually picking up the whale phone and I'm all about it. But the other thing of it that gives me great pause as a Heat fan with Ja Morant is when we talk about all these whale trades that are out there, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, whomever. Let's just throw Kyrie Irving, right? The main idea of all of that is who can they add next to Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to help those guys get over the hump, those two guys in particular, over the hump to win a title. In this scenario, if I was running the Memphis Grizzlies, I am not trading Ja Morant for Tyler Hero, a heap of picks, Jovic, and stuff. It's just not enough, right? And you normally say with these situations, hey, every team's no. This is a team that, like, the only check mark against you is you're going to have to deal with Ja Morant's suspension, which, like, hey, the Nets signed Kevin Durant on a torn Achilles. Teams will eat some missing regular season games to get a generational talent. So if I'm Memphis, I'm like, well, I wouldn't even think about this trade if I'm not getting one of the Heat's two best players. And honestly, I mostly think that Bam Adebayo is one of the most attractive trade pieces in the league and could probably get you about any star based on just his character, the way that he plays. But this is probably the one team in the league where I'd look at it and be like, well, they have a guy who does a lot of the Bam stuff. They're not apples to apples, but they have Triple J. They have Jaren Jackson Jr. And a defensive stalwart. I feel like he kind of got the D-point nod a little bit too early ahead of Bam. That's another story for another day. But it's one of the teams where I actually look at him and be like, oh, they don't the best guy that the Heat logically could trade for him, Bam Adebayo for Ja Morant, they wouldn't want. And I really wouldn't want to trade Bam. Like Bam's our guy. That's our cornerstone guy. So then you flip to the other guy that they would trade, and it'd be like, well, would you trade Jimmy Butler for Ja Morant? Let's just say in a hypothetical in this scenario, contracts aren't even, like you probably have to throw in, like, I don't know, just throw whatever Grizzly that makes an extra $10 million to make it work. But would you go in a scenario with the Grizzlies if they were so fed up with Ja Morant and the Grizzlies said, hey, what if we do this? We want to microwave some winning, give us Jimmy Butler, and you get Ja Morant, In a basic straight up, he would probably have to give picks for age, right? And I don't even know if either team would do it. I would say, for the Grizzlies, they're probably looking at, we're going to really trade a 23-year-old for a 33-year-old. But here's what I would say. Let's just say that they did, right? Let's just say Memphis was ready to do it. We're all taking crazy pills right now, okay? They want to move on from Ja Morant. They're sick of him. They're sick of the headache. They want a winning culture guy. They want a star. And Ja, let's say people say he's got to go to Miami. I, as a Heat fan, I can't trade Jimmy Butler. I can't trade Jimmy Butler for Ja Morant. It's just a principled thing to me. I think Ja Morant, and I say this as a guy who really thinks Ja Morant's an awesome player. Bummer to see what's happened to him this year, for sure. Bummer to see what's happened to him with all this stuff, because I really felt like, bleeding into this, I felt like this guy is one of the best stories in the league. Who wouldn't want to build their franchise around this guy and everything that he brings to the table and everything the Grizzlies got going on. They look like a huge pain in the ass for the rest of the league. But let's say they are ready to move on from John Morant. Sick of everything. Sick of the family drama, sick of the friend drama, sick of everything that comes with John Morant, apparently. And they call up the Heat and they just say, hey, but we still want to win. We want Triple J and Bane and the whole crew here. We don't really want to lose a step. Give us Jimmy Butler. I got to tell you, as a Heat fan, and people may think I'm crazy for this, but as a Heat fan, I can't give up Jimmy Butler in good faith. I can't. And it's just a principle thing. It's like Jimmy Butler has been so damn good with the Miami Heat. He has delivered on everything with the Miami Heat. With his playoff performances, with the way he rises to the occasion, the way he's played through injury, the just the type of face that he's been for this organization since he's been there. I just can't in good faith trade any other star for him right now. I can't. He's the Heat's guy. And I feel very much the same way about Bam too. But, I think for this one, it's just an interesting case because, like, Bam wouldn't get traded to Memphis anyway because of their situation with Triple J. So if this were to ever happen in any kind of weird scenario, would there be a Jimmy Butler job? Let's just say that Memphis, I can't do it. I can't do it. Jimmy's just that guy right now for me, man. Like he's a made guy as far as what he's delivered on in his time in Miami, and Bam has too. And I think that if you're the Grizzlies fan, you're probably nodding on your same way. Like you understand that, like Ja's your guy probably right now. Triple J and Desmond Bane are your guys. Like that's your core. You want to see this out. Just like I think it's pretty cool for the Denver Nuggets to see that out with what's going on with theirs. So I kind of got what Perk was saying. Like, it's an interesting thing to throw out. Like, in new change of scenery, Miami, it makes sense for John Morant. But I don't necessarily think I don't think this is necessarily a basketball winning culture thing for him. Miami does still have a lot of distractions. Some guys, you do need the right mix. Thankfully, the Heat, they do have a lot of maturity around their team right now. And do have a good infrastructure, but I don't necessarily know. I think that's just a case of the guys in the locker room. There definitely have been years where that hasn't always been the case. Trust me. For those who have just been following the last 4 years of the Jimmy Butler, Bam, Tyler, Duncan Robinson era. So, but I think this is so much different than, the Damian Lillard thing, where it's like Damian Lillard's 33. You have a franchise that would probably respect his wishes. You're not going to have to give up Jimmy or Bam for him. He's obviously not going to want to go there without him. Same thing with a Bradley Beal where he could dictate the terms. A Kyrie Irving is a free agent. Even if that's a sign and trade type of deal, like you're not going to have to give up your top two dogs. You're not going to have to. And I don't know. Spo was talking about this the other day with Bam and Jimmy. There's not many duos around the league you take above them. And I think especially for the Heat and what the way they do things, and they're almost so perfect in the characteristics that they have with the team and how they reflect the organization. I think it would take something crazy for the Heat to move off of those two guys and not go in the direction of who can we add next to those two guys to get us over the top, as opposed to you'd have to give up one of those two guys. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not. Even in this kooky Kendrick Perkins, Ja Morant scenario that was thrown out there today, which was definitely fun Twitter fodder, but I don't think makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.